The morning of November 13th, 1826 began just like any other day, quiet, peaceful, until something like a fox's cry rang out, never to be silent again. How can jealousy and a sense of betrayal break such a serene space? This is the case of Jehanne Roye. Jehanne Roye was nothing short of a miracle child. She was kind, smart, and had the stature of a girl with potential. She grew up in Grenoble, France, in a house along the banks of the Isère River. She had a very vivid imagination and loved to write. She enjoyed watching townsfolk by the fence outside the old miller's place, and was looked after by her older brother, Tuckett. Along with Tuckett, Jehanne had a humble and close-knit family, a local banker, Louis, and a member of the women's club, and house mother, Maribel Bell, as well as a younger sister whose name was never printed. This humble family label, though, did not provide a safety net from hysteria during the Napoleonic War. They were robbed of a third of their shares and put on a wanted list for the country of France. That's sick, but that's also so scary. It became clear that they were no longer safe in their country, so they bought tickets to sail the Atlantic Ocean to Rhode Island, where they would seek refuge from the danger of their mere existence in France while wanted. The trip was long and harsh, and with how young and fragile Jehanne's younger sister was, unfortunately, she would fall ill and pass away on the crossing. Which is just so heartbreaking, so please name her in the comments. So, heartbroken and exhausted, Jehanne and family would arrive in Rhode Island. Belle was too old and ridden with the care of her children, and Louis was not permitted to work due to contracting the same illness as the past daughter. So, they tried to secure Jehanne, now changed after her immigration to Jane Roye, a job at the new mill, owned by industrialist Sam Slater. She was never able to secure the job, though, and they heard of a new territory, Illinois. So in 1816, after 4 years of residing in Rhode Island, they packed their bags once again and traveled to Illinois. So basically, they just could not catch a break. They started building a cabin in the woods. Jane had never been very fond of building. She usually took care of the chickens and assisting her mother by the river with chores. However, Jane took more joy in taking care of the chickens. And those eggs she cleaned would provide their only stable income and way of survival. Unfortunately, in 1818, a drought hit, causing the river to dry up and food to become scarce. They no longer had any means of survival. So in a last-ditch decision, Louis would gather up Jane's chickens and slaughtered every last one of them, to the absolute devastation of Jane. Unfortunately, their efforts were not enough, as Tuckett had developed a severe case of dehydration. Because he was so vulnerable and sick, Tuckett passed away of bronchitis and pneumonia at the age of 17. So now it was just Jane and her parents. Long story short, Jane was sent back to Rhode Island. Her parents were old and sick and wanted her to have a second chance at life. At Rhode Island, she was granted the second chance. She did not achieve a male job, but she was hired as a visiting seamstress and sent to the Dean household. There, she would meet Eunice, a strict mistress, and her daughter, Annie. Eunice was very strict. She would force Annie to dress in certain ways, make sure her hair was tied in a bun or kerchief at all times. She was very set on making Annie and Jane look and act like all the other women in polite society, even using disciplines of the time such as a strike. Jane would describe Annie as an intellectual, constantly belittled and reprimanded. She loved horses and slacks and was not like the other girls in her town. She was described later by Eunice as too clever and cross for a lady of her standing. Jane would describe Annie's jealousy, claiming that from the beginning she could see it in her eyes and the way she talked about her work. Throughout documents and court filings, it was very well known that Jane had meant to leave to Providence the morning before she died. Though, why did she want to leave is the question. Here is the full document translated to English as was discovered in her private journal on the morning of the murder. If you would like a summary, I will include one at the end of the document so you can skip ahead if desired. I'm also not going to read this by myself. I think it's nice to know that these people have their own voice. So let me know if you enjoy this. I always read the comments, so if you have an opinion, feel free to share it there. Anyways, back to the video.
August 3rd, 1826. Slatersville, Dean Residence. I have been here 3 weeks. The house is large, with cold walls and darker corners. The light comes in only in the morning through the east windows. That is when I sew best. Madame Dean is precise. No smile ever touches her mouth. She speaks to me only when she must, and then it is to correct my work, not praise it. Still, I am grateful for the roof and the task. I have stitched cuffs for Mr. Dean's shirts and hemmed 3 gowns for her daughter, Miss Annie. Annie is peculiar. She watches me when she thinks I do not see. I once caught her rifling through my thread box, then she ran off without a word. There is a sadness in her, I think. No one ever speaks kindly to her. September 11th, 1826. The mornings are colder now. I rise before the others, to stitch in peace. The orchard is quiet at that hour, and the mist curls like breath over the grass. Annie shouted at me today. I had laid out her blue muslin to mend, and she accused me of doing it wrong, of making it smaller. It was nonsense, but I said nothing. Mother Dean heard her and said nothing too. Later, the cook told me Annie was always like this. She's a storm in a teacup, she said. Best to let her rage and pass. October 2nd, 1826. The bruises on Annie's arm. No one speaks of them. But I saw. I do not know who strikes her. Whether it is her mother or another, I dare not ask. But she walks like a bird with a broken wing some days. She asked me today if I had sisters. I said I had a younger one, lost in the crossing. She asked nothing more, just nodded and stared at the hearth. We are both strangers in this house, in different ways. October 19th, 1826. Madame Dean called me indispensable today. The word was cold, but it rang in me like a bell. But I cannot stay. I have written to Mrs. Davis in Providence. She worked with me once, long ago at the mill, and now she keeps a boarding room and sews for the Godfreys. She says she will take me in. I must go. I cannot breathe in this house much longer. It is not the work, it is the silence, the kind that buries you. November 10th, 1826. I have packed what little I own. I shall leave at dawn on Monday. I took the green frock from Annie's chest. It is fine enough to wear for the journey, and she has not worn it in months. I left her my blue shawl in its place. It is foolish, perhaps, but I did not want to look like a servant when I go. I wanted to look like someone free. November 12th, 1826. Annie has been quiet all day. She passed me in the corridor and brushed my shoulder. Her eyes were red, though she said nothing. I wish I could explain to her I mean no harm, that I am not taking anything from her, only my own freedom. But she would not understand, or perhaps she does, and that is what hurts her. Final entry, November 13th, 1826, before dawn. The frost was thick on the window this morning. I could not sleep. I put on the green dress and stepped into the orchard. It is beautiful in the hour before sunrise, silent, like a held breath. I will miss the trees and the way the light touches the grass here, but not the house, not the eyes that watch, the words unspoken. Today I begin again.
For those who want a quick summary, she basically just explained how her life was with the Deans. She was very praised, but she was also kind of closed off and cautious about it. She talks about bruises she found on Annie's arm and wonders who they're from, and she feels bad for Annie and her treatment. Annie had asked her if she had sisters, and they had a moment stating, "We are both strangers in this house in different ways." And she talks about how she will miss the place, but not the house, when she leaves. The next is a recording from Annie's journal, and this one's a lot shorter, so no worries.
October 1st, 1826. It rained tonight. I walked through the orchard in my slacks and let the hem drag through the mud. Mother would scold if she saw, but that's just it. She never sees me. Not really. Not like she sees Jane. Jane has been here a month now. She sews like a machine and speaks like a lady, and Mother practically floats behind her like a little dog. I caught the way she smoothed Jane's hair behind her ear yesterday. She's never touched me like that. She says I'm too coarse, too clever for my own good. Jane laughed at a joke I made today. It wasn't even funny, but it felt like sunlight breaking through. October 15th, 1826. Jane wore my frock again. The violet one, my violet one. I had it hanging in the hallway to mend the hem, and she took it without asking. She just assumed it was meant for her. Mother said nothing. She even smiled. It suits her better, she said, as if I wasn't standing right there. I should have said something. I should have screamed. But Jane just looked at me with those soft eyes and said, "I thought it was for me. I'm sorry." And I believed her. For that moment, I believed her. She's leaving in a month, to Providence. I wonder what she'll wear when she gets there. My skin? I watched her today through the keyhole as she stitched lace on a chemise. Her fingers are so precise. She mumbles when she works. I wish I could unzip her and climb inside, wear her like the silk gloves she makes. I wonder what it would feel like to be looked at the way people look at her. Even the mailboy flushed when she handed him a letter. Mother asked her to stay for supper tomorrow. She never asks me to stay. November 6th, 1826. Jane told me she admired my mind. "You're clever, Annie. You don't belong in this little town." She touched my hand when she said it. Her lips were red from the cold. She smiled. We walked, we talked, she called me a friend. I never had a friend before. I didn't know how to feel about it.
And that will conclude the part 1 video of this case. I upload every part to this channel, so stay tuned for the next part. I'm just going to get into the actual case. There's plot twists and some secret events that were discovered years after. I know this part of the case is not the most entertaining, but I promise there'll be more to come, as well as a ghost hunt to conclude the case. This has been part 1. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button. Please, 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 please consider subscribing. It's free and it really helps out the channel. I upload art, ghost-related content, deep dives, reactions, so let me know what you want to see in the comments. This is Wilbur Lynn, signing off, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!